I have seen many things in my 35 years in the force, but nothing quite like the story of Chief Superintendent Alice Banjul and Joseph, the tiger, obeyed. Some say it was destiny. Others say it was madness. But I, Adebayo Okonkwo, Assistant Commissioner of Police and the one who saw it all, will tell you exactly how it happened. It wasn't just another love story. It was a war, a battle between justice and passion, between duty and desire. And in the end, it changed the course of history. For 5 years, the name Joseph Obeid, better known as the Tiger, sent chills down the spine of every law enforcement officer in the country. He was no ordinary gangster. He was a myth, a ghost, an untouchable godfather. His network ran deep, from the underbelly of crime to the very halls of power. Even when the police thought they had him cornered, he always slipped away. That was until Chief Superintendent Alice Banjul entered the picture. Alice was a woman with nerves of steel and the mind of a chess master. At 35, she had already outshone most of her male colleagues in the force. Ruthless with criminals, fearless under fire, and incorruptible, she was every officer's nightmare and every gangster's terror. I remember the first time she was assigned to the Tiger case. The moment her name was announced, some officers laughed. A woman? Against Tiger? I didn't laugh. I had seen Alice at work. You'll need backup, I told her the day she took over the case. I don't need backup. I need results, she replied. And results she got. Alice studied every detail about Tiger, his movements, his hideouts, his weaknesses. She knew he operated like a shadow, using intermediaries and never showing his face except when absolutely necessary. So she set a trap. Using an undercover sting operation, she staged a high-profile arms deal that Tiger couldn't resist. His men fell for it, and for the first time in years, Tiger walked into the light. It should have been an easy arrest. But nothing was easy with Joseph Obeid. The operation went sideways. One of the officers tipped Tiger off. In the chaos, bullets rained like a storm. Alice, against all protocols, chased him alone into the alleyways of the city, sprinting after the legend himself. Then it happened. A gun to her head. His voice, deep and steady. You're good, officer. But not good enough. And yet he didn't pull the trigger. He looked into her eyes, sharp, fearless, unwavering. He let her live. That was the first sign. For weeks, Alice obsessed over why Tiger had spared her. She wouldn't say it out loud, but I knew what was happening. She wasn't just hunting Tiger anymore. She was drawn to him. Meanwhile, her junior officers grumbled. The men in her squad, especially Sergeant Jide and Inspector Musa, had always been protective of Alice. They had also made their feelings clear. Each of them thought they had a chance with her. But her heart was focused on one thing, her mission. Now, however, it wasn't just about catching Tiger. It was about understanding him. Through informants and intercepted messages, she learned the truth about Tiger, how he had been forced into crime after his family was murdered by corrupt politicians who used him as a pawn, how he had been betrayed by the very system that Alice served. And then, one fateful night, Tiger came to her first. Nobody knows exactly how it started. Some say she arrested him and he charmed her from behind bars. Others believe he surrendered himself only for Alice. What I do know is that one night, Alice walked into the station with Tiger in handcuffs, but with an expression none of us had ever seen on her face before. "Lock him up," she ordered. But her voice was different. And when the men left, I saw her fingers brush against his. The fire had begun. The news spread like wildfire. Alice Banjul and Joseph Obeid, the hunter and the hunted, were in love. The force was furious. Her colleagues turned against her. Her superiors plotted her downfall. Even I, her most trusted ally, pulled her aside. "Alice, this will ruin you." "I don't care," she said. "He's not the monster they say he is." She fought for him. She proved that Tiger had been set up. And when the evidence came out, showing the real criminals behind the bloodshed he had been blamed for, the government had no choice but to offer him a deal. Tiger agreed to cooperate. He turned on the corrupt men who once controlled him. He dismantled his own empire. And in the process, he became a free man. Their love was no longer a secret. Some called her a traitor. Others called her a hero. But when Joseph Obaid walked into the courtroom and testified against the most dangerous criminals in the country, bringing them all down in one blow, the nation changed its tune. Alice was awarded the National Medal of Bravery. Joseph Obaid, the tiger, became a model citizen. And 1 year later, the woman who had once been told she was crazy for loving him walked down the aisle in her full police uniform, with the man they once called a monster waiting for her at the altar. Alice Banjul was promoted to Inspector General of Police, the first woman in the country's history to hold the position. Her colleagues, once her fiercest critics, now stood at attention when she walked into the room. And as for Tiger? Well, he was no longer a tiger. He was her husband, her protector, and her biggest supporter. But the story isn't over yet. Because a new enemy is rising. And this time, it's not just Alice and Tiger who are in danger. It's the entire country. Most love stories begin with flowers, stolen glances, or whispered promises. But Alice and Joseph's story? It began with blood. Please subscribe. To understand why Alice and Tiger became inseparable, you have to dig into the ashes of their pasts, into the wounds that shaped them into the warriors they became. Joseph, the tiger, Obaid was born in the forgotten gutters of Alakan City, the kind of place where children learn to pickpocket before they learn to read. His father was a fearless union leader who fought against corrupt politicians and paid the ultimate price, an assassination staged as an armed robbery. His mother? A schoolteacher who dared to testify against the killers. She didn't live long after that. Joseph was 10 years old when he watched his mother die in a burning house, set on fire by the very men the police were supposed to arrest. He was left with nothing. A wealthy crime boss named Baba Kalisha took him in, not out of kindness, but because he saw potential. You have two choices, Baba told the boy. Die in the streets, or become a tiger that no man can cage. Joseph chose survival. By the time he was 15, he was the youngest lieutenant in Baba Kalisha's crime syndicate. At 25, he had dismantled his own master's empire and taken over the throne. They called him the Tiger because he never lost a fight. But deep down, beneath the scars and the reputation, he was still the boy who had watched his mother burn. Alice wasn't born into crime. She was born into duty and discipline. Her father was Brigadier General Banjul, a decorated soldier who believed in two things: honor and sacrifice. Her mother was a human rights lawyer who spent her life fighting for the poor and oppressed. Alice grew up hearing stories of justice. She believed in it like a religion. Then, on a rainy evening when she was 12, her father was assassinated. Not in battle. Not in the line of duty. But in his own home. Because he refused to look the other way when a corrupt senator funneled military funds into his private accounts. Her mother tried to fight the system legally. She disappeared 6 months later. Alice was left in the care of an uncle who sold everything they owned to get her into the best police academy. She became a cop not because she wanted power, but because she had seen what happens when justice is stolen. She was the best at what she did, not just because she was smart or brave, but because she had nothing left to lose. The night Alice chased Tiger into the alley and he held a gun to her head, something happened. They saw each other. Not the cop and the criminal. Not the hunter and the hunted. They saw two orphans of the same war. Two souls who had lost everything to the same corrupt machine. Alice saw the boy who had watched his mother burn. Tiger saw the girl who had buried her parents in the name of justice. That was why he didn't pull the trigger. And that was why, even when they stood on opposite sides of the law, they kept finding their way back to each other. Alice's promotion to Inspector General of Police was supposed to be a victory. She had crushed crime, brought down the most feared criminals in the country, and turned the legendary Tiger into a man of peace. But peace never lasts. Because some men don't forget. One of them was Baba Kalisha. The man who had once owned Tiger like a pet had returned from exile, and he wasn't just looking for revenge. He was looking to burn everything Alice and Tiger had built to the ground. The first warning came in the form of a gift-wrapped coffin delivered to Alice's office. Inside was the body of Sergeant Jide, one of her most loyal officers. A note was pinned to his chest. Did you think you could kill the devil and go unpunished? The war has begun. Alice called a national emergency meeting. The president himself attended. "We will not bow to criminals," the president declared. But Alice knew better. Baba Kalisha wasn't a gangster. He was a war general in the underworld. And he had more men, more money, and more power than even the government. The only way to stop him? Break the law Alice had sworn to protect. Alice didn't want to ask Joseph for help. He had left that life behind. He was building a legitimate empire, running a security firm, and living a life free from blood. But when she walked into their home and showed him the note, he said nothing. He simply stood up, walked to his old safe, and pulled out his guns. "You're not doing this alone," he said. That night, the tiger returned. Not as a criminal, not as a gangster, but as a man fighting to protect the only woman who had ever saved him. Baba Kalisha didn't just attack Alice. He declared war on the entire city. Explosions, assassinations, police stations burned to the ground. The government? Paralyzed by fear. The police force? Betrayed from within. Alice was framed for conspiracy. Her enemies within the government tried to strip her of her badge. And just when she thought it couldn't get worse, Baba Kalisha kidnapped her uncle, the man who had raised her, the only family she had left. The message was clear. Surrender or he dies. Alice had a choice. Follow the law and lose everything. Or break every rule and take the fight directly to Baba Kalisha. She chose war. With Tiger by her side, she assembled a team of loyal fighters, ex-cops, former gangsters who owed Tiger their lives, and officers who believed in justice more than politics. This wasn't just a police operation. It was a battle for the soul of the nation. And in the heart of the war, Alice and Tiger became more than just lovers. They became legends. A city under siege. A government in chaos. Alice and Tiger were fighting for justice, but what they didn't know was that the real enemy wasn't just Baba Kalisha. It was the very government Alice had sworn to serve. Please subscribe. The night before Alice and Tiger were set to raid Baba Kalisha's stronghold, Alice received a call from the Minister of National Security. "Inspector General," the voice said, "stand down. We're negotiating with Baba Kalisha. If you launch that operation, you'll be declared a traitor." Alice froze. Negotiating? With the same man who had killed police officers, bombed a police headquarters, and kidnapped her uncle? Alice realized the truth in that moment. Baba Kalisha wasn't just a criminal. He was a government asset. For years, he had been funding corrupt politicians, laundering their stolen money, and eliminating their enemies. Now that Alice was close to destroying him, they were trying to save him. Alice knew she had two choices. Obey the government and let Baba Kalisha continue his reign of terror. Go rogue and risk being labeled a criminal herself. She made her decision the moment she looked into Tiger's eyes. They had both lost their families to corruption. Now, they had a chance to end it all, even if it meant becoming fugitives. But what Alice didn't know was that the government had already made its move. As she and her task force were en route to Baba Kalisha's hideout, they were ambushed by their own people, a special strike team sent by the president himself. The attack was brutal. Explosions tore through their convoy. Bullets rained down from helicopters. Alice barely escaped, but half her team was slaughtered. And worse? Tiger was captured. The news spread like wildfire. Inspector General Alice Banjul, wanted for treason. The government had declared her a national enemy. Tiger was taken to a black site prison, one that officially did not exist. Alice was left with nothing. No badge. No army. No backup. Just her rage. And one last option. If the system wanted her gone, she would burn the system down first. Alice disappeared. For 3 months, the world thought she was dead. But in the shadows, she was building an army. Not police officers. Not government soldiers. But men and women who had been betrayed by the system, ex-intelligence officers, elite mercenaries, underground hackers, and even former gangsters loyal to Tiger. They weren't bound by law. They weren't answering to politicians. They were answering to justice alone. And their first mission? To break into the most secure prison in the country and free the Tiger. They called it Black Site Omega. A prison so secret, even members of the government didn't know where it was. It was buried beneath a military base, guarded by the most elite strike force in the country. No one had ever escaped. Until Alice came. Using hacked government satellites, Alice's team located the facility. Using stolen military blueprints, they identified its weak points. And using a level of ruthlessness the government never expected, they tore through its defenses like a storm. By the time they reached Tiger's cell, he was bloody, beaten, and half-conscious. But the moment he saw Alice, he smiled. "I knew you'd come," he whispered. And just like that, the Tiger was back. Alice and Tiger didn't just escape. They declared war. Please subscribe. With their army of outcasts, they attacked Baba Kalish's empire from the shadows. His drug routes? Destroyed. His money laundering channels? Exposed to the world. His political protectors? Assassinated one by one. Baba Kalisha tried to run. But there was nowhere left to hide. Alice and Tiger cornered him in his last hideout, deep in the mountains. The final battle was brutal. But in the end, Baba Kalisha stood alone, his empire reduced to ashes. "You think killing me will end this?" He laughed, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Alice pointed her gun at him. "It's not just about ending you," she said. "It's about ending everything you stood for." And with one shot, Baba Kalisha, the man who had terrorized an entire nation, was no more. With Baba Kalisha dead, the government had only one enemy left: Alice. And so, the president declared martial law. The military was deployed across the country to hunt her down. She was outnumbered, outgunned. But she had one final move left. Because while Alice was fighting in the shadows, her allies were exposing the truth. All the corruption files, all the government's dirty secrets, all the evidence that Baba Kalisha had been working with the president himself. It was broadcast to the entire nation. In a single night, the president lost the people's trust. Riots broke out. Protests filled the streets. And with the country on the brink of collapse, the military turned on the president. He was arrested. Alice was offered full reinstatement. She refused. Instead, she demanded one thing only: a new system, one where justice was not just a word, but a reality. And for the first time in history, the nation listened. A year later, Alice and Tiger stood on a grand stage as heroes of the nation. They had started as enemies. They had fought against the entire world. And now, they were husband and wife. And as Alice was sworn in as the first ever national security commander, with Tiger by her side, the entire nation knew one thing for certain. The system would never be the same again. The war was over. Or so we thought. Alice and Tiger had brought down a criminal empire, toppled a corrupt government, and rewritten history. But the night after Alice received her National Hero Award, something happened that changed everything. An envelope was delivered to her office. No name. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. A man, bound and gagged. Beaten to within an inch of his life. Alice's eyes widened in horror. It was Tiger's brother. And below the photo, a single message was written in blood-red ink. "You thought it was over? It has only just begun." The Black Hand. The Black Hand. A name that was spoken only in whispers. A global syndicate more powerful than any cartel, government, or intelligence agency. They controlled wars. They installed and removed presidents. They decided the fate of nations. And now they had Alice's family. Alice rushed home, but Tiger was already gone. His gun lay on the floor. His phone was crushed. A single bullet casing was left behind. Alice picked it up and realized it wasn't just any bullet. It was a custom-made shell used only by one group of assassins. A group she knew all too well. The same people who had killed her parents 20 years ago. Alice's blood ran cold. This wasn't just revenge. This was personal. Please subscribe. To save Tiger, Alice needed to trace the origins of the Black Hand. But what she found shattered everything she believed about her past. Her parents weren't just innocent civilians killed by robbers. They were high-ranking members of a secret resistance group, a group that had once tried to destroy the Black Hand. They had been executed for their betrayal. And now, the Black Hand was back to finish what they started. Alice was never just a police officer. She was a child of war. And whether she liked it or not, this war was now hers to finish. Alice hacked into the satellites that monitored the country's underground communication networks. After hours of decoding, she found a hidden signal, a message Tiger had left behind before he was taken. It was only 3 words. Don't trust anyone. Alice clenched her fists. She knew what that meant. Someone in her own ranks had betrayed her. The traitor could be anyone. One of her officers. A government official. Even a friend. Alice devised a trap. She leaked false information that she was heading to a secret location to meet a high-level informant. If the Black Hand had a spy in her camp, they would try to intercept her. And they did. As Alice waited in a deserted alley, a sniper's bullet tore through the night. But Alice was ready. She dodged at the last second and fired back, hitting the attacker's arm. The sniper staggered and fell from his hidden position. When Alice turned him over, her breath caught in her throat. It was Commissioner Kabaloo, her superior officer. The same man who had once called her the future of the force. And as he bled out, he smiled. "You're in over your head, Alice," he whispered. "The Black Hand owns everything. Even you." Alice pressed her gun against his forehead. "Where's Tiger?" she demanded. Kabaloo laughed. "If you think Tiger is the key to winning this war, you've already lost." And with that, he bit down on something hidden in his mouth. Cyanide. Alice watched in horror as foam spilled from his lips. The traitor was dead. But the war had only just begun. With Kabaloo dead, Alice had no choice but to track down the Black Hand herself. But she wasn't alone. She called in every ally she had left, rogue agents, mercenaries, hackers. Together, they traced Tiger's location to a floating fortress in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. An off-the-books prison for enemies of the Black Hand. No one had ever escaped. Alice was about to change that. As her team suited up, she looked at them and said, "No more running. No more hiding. Tonight we take the fight to them." And with that, they set sail for war. Alice and her team sailed through raging waters, the wind howling like a beast as their speedboat cut through the waves. The coordinates were locked. They were headed straight for the Black Hand's floating fortress, a heavily fortified prison in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It was known as the Abyss. And tonight, Alice was bringing hell with her. Inside the prison, Tiger hung from steel chains, his body covered in bruises. But his mind? Unbroken. A Black Hand agent stepped forward. "Your woman is coming for you, Tiger. Brave but foolish." Tiger grinned through the pain. "Then you're all already dead." The agent chuckled. "You think she can take on the Abyss? This place has never been breached." Tiger leaned forward, his golden eyes blazing. "Then you've never met Alice." Alice's team approached the Abyss under the cover of darkness. They moved like shadows, their black suits blending with the night. Their plan was simple. Disable communications. Take out the guards. Find Tiger. But things were never that simple. The moment they stepped onto the platform, sniper fire rained down on them. The trap. They had been expected. Alice's team scattered, returning fire as bullets zipped past them. She rolled behind cover, her mind racing. Who tipped them off? Another traitor? A man lunged at her with a knife, but Alice caught his wrist, twisted it, and drove his own blade into his throat. She didn't stop moving. One by one, she silenced the guards. But then, a loud boom shook the entire fortress. The emergency alarms blared. Then a voice echoed over the intercom. "Welcome, Chief Superintendent Alice. We've been waiting for you." Alice froze. She knew that voice. It belonged to a ghost from her past. A steel door slid open, revealing a man Alice had buried years ago. Inspector General Balaki O'Furan. Her former mentor. The man who had trained her. The man who had betrayed the police force and faked his death. Now, he stood before her, alive and leading the Black Hand. Alice's hands shook with rage. "You," she whispered. Balaki smiled. "Surprised? You shouldn't be. The system is broken, Alice. You of all people should know that." Alice raised her gun. "You trained me to fight corruption. And yet, here you are." Balaki chuckled. "No, Alice. I trained you to survive. And now, I'm giving you one last lesson. He stepped aside, revealing a glass chamber behind him. Inside it, Tiger, strapped to a chair, a countdown ticking above his head. 10:00, 9:59, 9:58. A bomb. Balaki's smile widened. You have 10 minutes to save him, Alice. But you won't make it. Alice's pulse pounded in her ears. This wasn't just a fight anymore. This was a race against time. And she never lost. Alice moved. She didn't think. She didn't hesitate. She sprinted across the platform, dodging gunfire, taking out enemies with brutal precision. Her team fought alongside her, covering her as she made her way to Tiger's chamber. 5:00, for :59, 4:58. The glass chamber was bulletproof. No doors. No handles. Only a biometric scanner. She turned to Balaki, who stood smugly, arms crossed. Only my palm can open it, he said. Alice aimed her gun. I only need your hand. Before Balaki could react. Bang. Alice shot him in the wrist, blowing off his hand. He screamed, dropping to his knees. Alice grabbed his severed hand and slammed it against the scanner. The chamber opened. She ripped the wires from the bomb and pulled Tiger out just as the countdown hit 0:01. No explosion. No death. Just Alice and Tiger, standing victorious. But it wasn't over yet. Balaki was still alive. And he wasn't alone. Dozens of Black Hand assassins surrounded them, weapons drawn. The real final battle was about to begin. Alice and Tiger stood back to back, guns raised. Tiger grinned. Please subscribe. One last dance. Alice smirked. Let's finish this. The air crackled with tension. Alice and Tiger stood back to back, their weapons raised as the assassins encircled them. The Black Hand's best killers. Merciless, well-trained, and loyal to death. Balaki, clutching his severed wrist, barked through gritted teeth. Kill them. All hell broke loose. The first assassin lunged. Alice sidestepped, twisted his arm, and snapped his neck in one smooth motion. Tiger unleashed hellfire, his twin pistols cutting down enemies with brutal efficiency. The platform became a war zone. Gunfire, screams, blood spraying into the cold night air. Alice's team, still holding the dock, fought their way toward her. But the assassins were too many. Then, from the shadows, a figure emerged. A woman, dressed in full tactical gear, and holding a sniper rifle aimed at Alice. Her voice rang out. Alice, we meet again. Alice's blood ran cold. She knew that voice. She knew her. It was Delza Balaki, Inspector General Balaki's only daughter. Delza's golden eyes burned with fury. Alice had once been her mentor at the academy. And now? Now they stood on opposite sides of the law. You took my father's hand, Delza said, her voice like steel. Now I'll take your life. Alice didn't flinch. Your father betrayed this country. Delza cocked her rifle. And you betrayed me. She pulled the trigger. Tiger dived, pushing Alice out of the way as the bullet grazed her shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm. But Alice didn't stop moving. She rolled, grabbed a fallen pistol and fired back. Delza dodged, vanishing into the shadows. The assassins closed in. Tiger was bleeding. Alice's team was still too far. And then, Balaki laughed. Game over, Alice. He pressed a remote detonator. And the abyss began to sink. The entire fortress shook violently. Metal groaned. Water rushed in from all sides. The Black Hand had rigged the abyss to self-destruct. And now, everyone was trapped. Alice grabbed Tiger, her mind racing. There has to be a way out. And she saw it. A hidden subdock below the platform. The only way out. But Delza stood in their path. She raised her rifle again. This time, you won't escape. Alice and Delza locked eyes. Two warriors. Please subscribe. Two former friends. Alice's gun was empty. Delza's was not. But just as Delza pulled the trigger, a single shot rang out. And Delza collapsed. Behind her stood Tiger, holding a smoking gun. His eyes were haunted. But his voice was steady. No one touches my woman. Alice stared at Delza's fallen body. Then, without a word, She grabbed Tiger's hand and sprinted toward the sub. The water rushed in behind them. The abyss was collapsing. As they reached the dock, Balaki, bleeding and defeated, screamed after them. "You think you've won? The Black Hand never dies." Alice ignored him. She and Tiger jumped into the submarine. And as the doors sealed, the abyss vanished into the ocean. The Black Hand's fortress was no more. The submarines surfaced miles away. Alice's team picked them up. The world thought she had died in battle. But when she stepped off that submarine, the nation erupted in cheers. The chief superintendent had done the impossible. The Black Hand was destroyed. The corrupt leaders fell. And Alice? She became a legend. Weeks later, a grand ceremony was held. The president himself awarded Alice the Medal of National Honor. Then, before the entire nation, Tiger knelt before her. "Alice," he said, his voice rough with emotion, "I was once a tiger, but you made me a man. Will you marry me?" Alice's eyes filled with tears. She looked out at the crowd, her team, her friends, her country. Then back at the man who had once been her greatest enemy. She smiled. "Yes." A year later, the president made an announcement. Alice was no longer just chief superintendent. She was now the inspector general of police, the highest rank in the nation, the first woman to ever hold the title. And by her side, her husband, Joseph the Tiger, a man who had once been a feared gangster, a reformed man, a warrior for justice, and the father of their unborn child. But wait, it's not over. As Alice stood before the cameras, a message buzzed on her phone. An unknown number. She opened it and froze. The message was a single image. A photo of Delza Balaki, alive, standing in the shadows, with a single word beneath it. Soon, Alice thought she had won. But Delza lives. And she's coming for revenge. This war isn't over. The moment Alice saw the message, her heartbeat stalled. Delza Balaki was alive. And she wanted revenge. For a moment, Alice felt something deep and dark stir inside her. She had seen Delza fall. She had seen the blood pooling beneath her body. But now she was back. And Alice knew. She won't stop until either of us is dead. Alice didn't tell anyone about the message immediately. Not even Tiger. She needed to be sure. Please subscribe. But Tiger was too sharp to miss the storm brewing behind her eyes. One night as they lay in bed, he turned to her. "You're hiding something, Alice." She sighed. Then she showed him the message. Tiger went rigid. "No," he said, his voice dangerously low. "She's dead. She has to be." Alice stared at him. "You of all people should know, ghosts don't stay buried." Alice had no choice. She activated Operation Phantom Hunt, a secret mission within the force, known only to her most trusted men. Assistant Commissioner Adebayo, Lieutenant Florida, Sergeant Khalad, and of course, Tiger. The mission? Find Delza before she strikes first. But Alice knew one thing. Delza was not just hiding. She was watching, waiting, and planning something devastating. One morning, just before Alice was set to address the country, the airwaves were hijacked. Every TV station, every radio, every screen in the city flickered. Delza's face appeared. Alice's blood turned to ice. "People of the Republic," Delza's voice rang through the air. "You have been deceived. Your so-called Inspector General is not a hero. She is a murderer." The footage changed. A doctored video showing Alice firing the shot that killed Delza. A montage of Alice's raids, her battles, her kills, but twisted to make her look like a villain. Then Delza spoke again. "You made her your leader. Now she will destroy you all." The screen glitched, then cut to black. The reaction was instant. The media exploded. Protests broke out. Social media erupted with hashtags. Hashtag Alice the murderer. Hashtag justice for Delza. Hashtag Alice must resign. The Senate summoned Alice for questioning. The public trust in her began to crumble. The president himself called her. "Alice, I can't protect you from this scandal. You have 48 hours to clear your name or step down." Alice clenched her fists. I'm not stepping down. Then find her, the president said, and finish this war. Alice's instinct screamed danger. She doubled security. She ordered 24/7 surveillance on every government building. But Delza was one step ahead. That night, the Senate House exploded. 12 senators dead. 40 injured. And Delza sent another message. A live broadcast. With a hostage. The hostage? Alice's uncle. Tied to a chair. Bruised. Bloodied. Please subscribe. And with a gun to his head. Delza leaned into the camera. Alice. You took everything from me. Now you have 24 hours. Surrender yourself to me, alone, or your uncle dies. Alice's heart shattered. She knew what Delza was doing. This was personal. This was war. No. Alice had to make an impossible choice. Alice didn't hesitate. She grabbed her gun. Her badge. And she walked into the night. Alone. Determined. Ready for the final battle. But Tiger? He had other plans. He wasn't letting her face this alone. Because this time, the Tiger was hunting the Phantom. Alice versus Delza. One final showdown. No rules. No mercy. Only one woman walks away. Alice was prepared for war. She was prepared for blood. She was prepared for the final battle with Delza. But she was not prepared for this. She stood in front of the bathroom mirror, staring at the pregnancy test in her hand. Positive. Her fingers trembled. Her heart pounded. She was pregnant. With Tiger's child. And now, she had everything to lose. Please subscribe. Alice had spent her life fighting battles. But this was a different kind of war. The war inside her. The war outside. And the war in her heart. She couldn't tell Tiger. Not yet. Not when Delza still had her uncle. Not when the entire nation was turning against her. She had to finish this first. Then she would think about the life growing inside her. But fate had other plans. Tiger was sharp. Too sharp. Alice had barely spoken about the mission for the past few days. She was moving differently. More cautious. More hesitant. Then one night, Tiger caught her staring at something in her hand. She didn't even realize he was watching. Until he stepped forward and took the pregnancy test from her fingers. Alice's breath hitched. Tiger looked at it. Then at her. His voice was barely a whisper. Alice? Her lips parted. But no words came out. Tiger stared at her. His face changed. From shock. To fear. To something deeper. You're pregnant? Alice slowly nodded. Tiger let out a breath. Then, without a word, he pulled her into his arms. Holding her like he never wanted to let go. For the first time in years, Alice felt truly vulnerable. For the first time in his life, Tiger was afraid of losing something. Or someone. Now, Alice wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her uncle. For her reputation. For her child. She had to end this. And she had to do it fast. Tiger grabbed her shoulders. We're not going in alone. We call backup. We play this smart. But Alice shook her head. Please subscribe. Delza wants me. This is personal. I have to face her alone. You're carrying my child. Tiger growled. I won't let you walk into a death trap. Alice's jaw clenched. Then stop me. Tiger's face darkened. You know I won't. Because she was Alice. And Alice always finished what she started. Delza was waiting. In an abandoned cathedral outside the city. A place that once held prayers and mercy. Now it would hold blood and vengeance. Alice arrived alone. Or so she thought. Because Tiger followed. Hidden. Watching. Waiting for the right moment to strike. Then Alice saw him. Her uncle. Tied to a chair. Barely breathing. And standing behind him. Holding a gun to his head. Her lips curled into a smile. You really came, Alice? Alice's hands balled into fists. Let him go, Delza. This is between us. Delza chuckled. Oh, Alice. It was never just about us. Then Delza raised the gun. And fired. Everything moved too fast. The gun went off. Alice's uncle cried out. But Tiger moved faster. He jumped out of the shadows. And took the bullet. Right in his shoulder. Alice screamed. Tiger collapsed. Blood spilled onto the ground. But even wounded, he grabbed his gun and fired back. The shot hit Delza's leg. She stumbled, but didn't fall. Instead, she laughed. You really love her, don't you, Tiger? Alice aimed her gun at Delza's head. Her hands steady. Her heart pounding. It's over, Delza. But Delza just smirked. No, Alice. This is just the beginning. Then she pressed a button on her wrist. And the entire building exploded. The explosion rocked the cathedral. Alice barely had time to react. Flames erupted from the walls. Smoke choked the air. The roof began to collapse. Alice grabbed her uncle. Tiger, bleeding heavily, stumbled beside her. Delza? Nowhere to be seen. We have to get out. Tiger shouted. Alice looked around. Then she saw her. Delza, please subscribe. Trapped under a pile of burning rubble. Gasping for air. Reaching for help. This was her chance. Alice could let her die. No one would blame her. The world would be safer without Delza Balaki. But Alice wasn't a killer. And she wasn't going to become one. So she made her choice. She ran back into the fire. And pulled Delza out. Hours later, Alice woke up in a hospital bed. Tiger was beside her. His arm in a sling. Her uncle was safe. Delza was in custody. And Alice? Alice was alive. And so was their child. Tiger leaned down. Kissed her forehead. You saved her, he whispered. Even after everything. Alice smiled weakly. Because if I let her die, I would have become her. Tiger chuckled softly. And now? Alice reached for his hand. Now we start a new chapter. As parents. As partners. As warriors who will never stop fighting. And for the first time in her life, Alice felt at peace. Please subscribe.